On this day, October 31st, 1517, Martin Luther is said to have nailed his 95 Theses to a door of a church in Wittenberg. Now, we don't actually know whether he did do this, although it was custom in the University of Wittenberg to nail up your theses, or your arguments, or your protests, onto the churches in the university itself. What he did do was he sent a copy to the Archbishop of Mainz. This day is commonly seen as the beginning of the Protestant Reformation. Probably one of the most important things that have ever happened in all of history. And definitely one of the most important things that have happened in European history. Now, he was not the first to protest. He was not the first to complain, and he was not the first to point out faults in the Catholic Church or in its hierarchy. Way back in the 14th century, a certain John Wycliffe also became a thorn in the side of the clergy. He's famous for writing the Wycliffe Bible, or translating the Wycliffe Bible. He probably translated the entire New Testament, but he definitely did do the Gospels. And he translated it from the Latin Vulgate. He also sparred with the clergy, the high clergy within England. And after his death, he was declared a heretic, dragged from his grave and burnt, because you can't have someone who's a heretic in a cemetery. And we also have John Huss in what is now the Czech Republic. So the Hussites were also a big thorn in the side of the Roman Catholic hierarchy. And he was around about a century before Martin Luther. But at the time when Martin Luther nailed his theses to the church door, there were still Hussites around Prague and Bohemia. So, Martin Luther was just the most recent in a long line of people who had protested against the corruption and against the immorality and the immorality that they saw in the church. All of these people also protested or had a problem with the authority of the Pope. They could not see in any biblical text how or why he was able to wield the authority he claimed. They always went back to that one point in the Gospels where Jesus says to Peter, "You are the rock on which I will build my church." But for them, that was a big jump to saying, "You can now be the Pope and tell everyone what to do." And even if he had been talking about him, how would that apply to the bishops of Rome in the future? This was their argument, and for many people, this was an argument that they didn't really understand. Up until this point, Bibles had been written by hand in monasteries. Very few people could read. Very few people who could even read could get books. And very few of them could even get the Bible. It wasn't encouraged to read the Bible. It was encouraged to ask the priest or the bishop or the Pope, if you were powerful enough, what such and such meant. They were the gatekeepers, and what they said went. Now, however, since the invention of the printing press, suddenly books were being printed and printed everywhere about many different things. One of the most popular books to be printed was the Bible. And one of the things that Martin Luther did was he translated the Bible into German. What Luther did besides translating the Bible was to standardize or help standardize modern German. Up until that time, German had been a collection of languages. Dutch was considered German at the time, or a German dialect. It's only afterwards, over the centuries, that it definitely became very different from German. And so there was lots of different dialects: Bavarian, Saxon, Prussian, Hanoverian, Rhinelandish, Württembergian, Austrian, Dutch, Flemish, and Swiss German as well. With him writing this, it standardized written German, which in its way began to standardize spoken German. So just through this, he had a very powerful effect on Germany and the German people. But by translating the Bible, he was able, for the first time, to show the Bible to the masses. And this was a revolutionary act, and it was seen as a revolutionary act. It overturned the power of the Catholic Church. It overturned the power of the landed church in Germany. Many prince-bishops, lost their bishopness. Some of them became just princes. Some of these lands were annexed to other realms, kingdoms, duchies, counties. But it was the end, you could say, of medieval Europe. This was the beginning of the modern age. A modern age where people read themselves, made their own decisions. But it was also the beginning of a century of chaos and bloodshed. Up until this point, Catholicism had been surprisingly elastic. Yes, there was the John Husses of the world and the John Wycliffes of the world, but these people pushed pretty far. And it took a long time for the Catholic Church to respond to these people. It was actually quite a tolerant organization for the time, because they had no adversaries. The Reformation and the Protestants that came out of it made the church a fundamentalist church, or a much more fundamentalist church than it was. With the Reformation came the Counter-Reformation. With the Counter-Reformation came the Inquisition. With the Inquisition came the intolerance that we're aware of with that. However, the Protestants weren't all that much better either. There was burnings on both sides. There was massacres on both sides. In the name of religion, Protestants killed Catholics. Catholics killed Protestants. And both Protestants and Catholics killed Mennonites and Anabaptists and Baptists and Calvinists. So there was a lot of violence to go around, a lot of bloodshed that happened. Wars were instigated by this. But it is without a doubt one of the most important days or dates in all of history. With this, people were able to look at why they believed in things. They were able to question authority. They were able to make their own decisions, whether they were right or wrong. And they were able to argue their points. Maybe not face to face, because they probably would have been killed, but through pamphleting, through books, and in universities. It was the beginning of a new age. And what we have seen now, what we see now in the world, what we've seen over the past 500 years, a lot of it comes from what Martin Luther did on that day. So, on this day, October 31st, 1517, the Protestant Reformation begins. If you like these videos, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, and come back tomorrow for more.